Welcome to Dreamforce, and welcome to our session today on our developer innovation that we're doing on top of B2C commerce. I'm Andrew Lawrence. I'm a director of product management for Commerce Cloud. With me up here, we have Dirk Bergman and Terrence Durella, who are also on the product management team. And we have Patrick Kroback, who is a senior development manager for Under Armour. He's going to talk to us a little bit about their participation in our developer Sandboxes pilot program. So, of course, we have to give the forward-looking statement slide. Remind everyone, we're going to be going through a number of roadmap items and beta programs and things today. Remind everyone, Salesforce is a public company. Please base your buying decisions on what is available in the product today. So kind of a quick run through what we're going to talk about today. I kind of have three areas that we're going to try to get through. First up, I'm going to talk a little bit about our overall developer vision. Next, we'll have Terrence. We'll talk about some of the latest innovations that customers are doing with our development pieces for Commerce Cloud. And then Dirk and Patrick will talk about our new developer sandboxes and actually give a demonstration. So let's start with the vision discussion. This vision statement we've put up in a number of sessions now for over the last year. It's still kind of the guiding statement of what we want to do with the overall developer experience for Commerce Cloud. We want Commerce Cloud that it is not the limiting factor in what you're trying to do with your B2C commerce websites and what you're doing. And as part of that, we have a number of development values that we've adopted as well. The first up being modern software delivery. We want to be able to provide a platform and tools and capabilities that allow you to do the things that you need to in a true SaaS form and be able to operate with the system. Innovation and evolution, so being able to innovate on top of the platform, develop, test, and do the things you need to in that regard, and simplicity and enablement, being able to provide you the tools that you need, reference applications, documentation, Trailhead, those type of things, so that you can get moving on top of the commerce platform as quickly as possible. In addition, we've begun adopting Salesforce DX principles. I hope you've started to look at Salesforce DX. As we start to do things with Commerce Cloud, we've been adopting these 4 principles as well. So first up with source-driven development, being able to work with your source code wherever it lives, team collaboration to be able to improve the productivity amongst your teams, continuous integration and delivery, which we'll actually see a big piece of today and how that works with the sandboxes and the tools we have there, and then being open and prescriptive and letting you use the tools that you want to do for your development on top of the Commerce Cloud. And with that, I'd like to turn the time over to Terrence Durella, who's going to take us through some of our latest developer innovations.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. So we wanted to share some updates on some things we've been working on and that many of you have started using to build on B2C commerce. And the first is the storefront reference architecture. So as a reminder, the storefront reference architecture is a blueprint for all of you to use to build your e-commerce experiences. It comes with a lot of standard e-commerce experiences right out of the box that you can choose to leverage or customize or replace. The storefront reference architecture incorporates a lot of research that we've done into all of the sites that are built on top of Commerce Cloud and brings them into the out-of-the-box experience. Developers have given us a lot of positive feedback about the nature of the architecture and the developer-friendly tooling. So this is a much more open source modeled MVC experience and much more like a general web development programming experience. And it's changed how we extend Commerce Cloud and integrate with link partners and open APIs. And the storefront reference architecture is generally available. It went generally available earlier this year. And already a lot of sites are live on the reference architecture and more are going live all the time. And we encourage all of you, if you're building new experiences, to take a look at the reference architecture. And we've seen some really impressive improvements in conversion rate, in cart abandonment, and in reducing cart and checkout abandonment with the sites that have been launched on the reference architecture in the past year. Amoda is one of our customers that has integrated with the storefront reference architecture. They had been experiencing a lot of challenges with their previous commerce platform lack of scalability, and we're realizing that they were seeing an increase in mobile traffic and weren't able to capture a lot of the sales on the mobile experience. So they've taken the reference architecture and implemented Commerce Cloud with it. They're seeing a significant increase in conversion rate across all devices and a really positive impact to their mobile performance. So a great example and maybe some inspiration for choosing to build on top of the reference architecture. So the next area we want to talk about are Okapi hooks. So Okapi is our open commerce API. So this is our suite of REST APIs that you can use to extend Commerce Cloud, integrate other systems, third-party systems. And hooks are a way that you can customize the behavior of Commerce Cloud on top of the Okapi behaviors that are native in the platform. So this gives you the opportunity to write JavaScript code that can be executed before or after the Okapi platform executes the call. You can modify what is coming into the platform and modify the return set that's coming back to your clients. So what are some examples of using Okapi? So if you are building native mobile applications, in-store applications, and you're needing to call into the commerce platform to perhaps update a basket or get a price of a basket, and you also need to call a tax provider, without the Okapi hooks, you may need to integrate multiple times, maintain a more complex code base in your native applications. The advantage of the hook points is that you can override the behavior and make these custom calls into your tax provider so that the return set from Okapi also is inclusive of any custom tax logic that you needed to implement, reducing the complexity of your native client implementations. Another example is pricing. So without the benefit of Okapi hook points, you may not be able to customize and understand that when a VIP customer or a loyalty customer is making a call for pricing, they should be getting special pricing. And instead, you might just return the generic pricing that's available in your system. But with the benefit of the Okapi hooks, you can override this behavior. You can change the price lookup to use the personalized experience for your VIP customers, your loyalty customers, and instead provide them with that special price point that you want to give them on your native client application. So there's lots of different ways to use Okapi hooks. These are some more opportunities. You can think about using them as you're integrating with ERP systems or CRM. If any time you really are doing anything that requires some custom business logic while you're executing Okapi calls, the hooks are a great opportunity for you to customize the behavior. So we want to talk about Trailhead today. Commerce Cloud has, this past year, received a lot of love in Trailhead. I think we have something like 12 new trails this year, which is really impressive. We know that Trailhead's the fun way to learn and earn, and we've got a lot of great content out there now on Trailhead. If you are a Salesforce admin and you haven't worked with Commerce Cloud before, there's a whole section on functional architecture if this is an area for career development that you'd like to explore, including client analysis, project documentation, a whole new trail there, 3 new modules to take a look at. If you are a developer, if you are new to B2C commerce or trying to refresh your skills, there's a lot of content now for developers understanding how to build on the B2C commerce platform. Just in time for the holiday season, we have a new module for holiday readiness. So as you get ready for Black Friday and thinking about performance and scalability, this is a trail that's going to help you out. And there's a lot of more great content coming for B2C commerce on Trailhead, so keep an eye out for more content soon. And then one last area we want to talk about is our Link program. Link is our partner ecosystem for B2C commerce. We're in the process of improving this process of installing and packaging applications, so it's easier for developers to integrate third-party applications with B2C commerce, and easier for our partners to build packaged applications for B2C commerce. And happy to talk more to you about all of these things after our presentation. And at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Dirk, who's going to share a demo with Patrick on our developer sandboxes.
Thank you, Terence. Let's talk about sandboxes. We have actually started a new approach of acquiring, managing, and operating sandboxes, developer sandboxes, in the last couple of months, and I want to just dig into some detail about this. What I want you to really see that this new approach is more something like a sandbox service. Instead of dealing with a box or dealing with an environment, just consider that to be a service which is greatly enhancing the developer experience from our perspective. So now the developer is able to use an API or a command line tool basically to create and acquire sandboxes within minutes, right? Since we are not running on the pod infrastructure anymore, but rather leveraging public cloud capabilities, we have much better ways in terms of performance, provide different options of sandboxes, etc. What we have actually a sign in that is required. No, not sure where this is coming from. So let me just close it. What's that? So, okay, no back. So the sandboxes are actually meant, or the sandbox service is actually meant to really deal with, as well as long-living developer sandboxes, but also with short-living sandboxes, ephemeral sandboxes, right? So that you can have coverage for use cases like CI/CD, where you just spin up a sandbox, you do your code testing on that sandbox, load some test data, and once you are finished, you can just throw away the sandbox again. The good thing about this is no cleaning up of an existing sandbox anymore. You can just spin up a fresh one and then deal with that. And beyond this, we have started to actually enhance the setup process in a way that you can configure right at the point of creation how the sandbox should run, whether it is able to execute Okapi calls, basically API calls from the outside. You can define web dev settings. You can actually define a TTL, which means after a certain point in time, we take care that the sandbox is actually being thrown away again. So you don't need to take care about that. We take care about the housekeeping. And what is, from my perspective, very important is we have integrated the new sandboxes into the identity management system, into our account manager. That means handling of user and user permissions is actually always done via account manager, and you don't need to deal with that in the sandboxes themselves anymore. So this is the theory on the slide. Let's get to a demo. We want to show you a small video which is actually showing you a developer process from changing a piece of code, deploying it to a sandbox, running test data, and finally see the result in the storefront. By doing that, actually, we utilize a community-based command line tool that is called SFC CI. So I will call it command line tool, which is the first application out there that embraces our APIs. And we have 3 sets of APIs that we utilize, which one is a set of APIs dealing with a sandbox. Second is dealing with code. And the third one is actually dealing with test data. So I'm switching over to the video now. So that is a sample store. And I just would like to show you a product detail page, and there is a product name in there, and I want to have that product name extended with the brand name. So I need to do some code change in order to take the effect for all of the products. What I first need to do is, when I want to deal with my sandboxes, I need to authenticate against our account management system. So I'm logging in, and the connectivity actually checks if I'm eligible to create those sandboxes. So I get a token back, and with that token, I can execute every other request with my permission set from the account manager. First, I check for available sandboxes. So no sandboxes are available. That means in order to continue my work, I just create a new one. And by entering that is actually, with every command that you see, there is a different API that's been triggered. Now I create one in a realm, in an environment that I'm eligible in to create that sandbox. So this is now triggered. And in the sake of time, normally that takes between 6 to 7 minutes. We have basically now switched over to the code piece, check for the availability of the sandbox if it is now up and running. And that is just by entering the list command once again. And now I should see this newly created sandbox. So I see that there's an end of life, I see who created it, I see instance type, etc. And what I am now doing is I go into my code and do the code change that I wanted to do. So I enhance basically the decorators for a product and go there and change basically the name handling, that I'm updating the name with a brand of the same product. Just put the code in there, save the code, and then put it into an archive. Now I have my code change in place. I go back and say, with my sandbox, I want to now load actually test data, then deploy the code, and then see the result. So that means I'm moving over to my test data, and this is actually the SFRA test data from our new storefront reference architecture. I have an archive there. I'm uploading that archive file into my newly created sandbox right away. That's pretty straightforward. We are using a job mechanism in the background and actually to get that done. And once the upload has been finished, I can actually import that data file into my sandbox. So that actually the time that takes that to get imported really depends on the size of the file. In case of the SFRA data, it leaves you between 5 to 6 minutes actually to get it loaded into the sandbox on the public cloud. Once that is done, I need to do some post-processing steps in order to have the store application basically recognizing the new data. So I need to re-index the data. I can trigger that here right out of my command line tool. And in the second step, I need to rebuild the storefront URL so that the system is prepared and I can basically access my storefront. In both cases, we are running jobs that were basically part of our SFRA data set before. So if you have seen that now, we have not yet touched any kind of business manager login, right? This was all touched out of our command line tool. Now I switch over to the code. I have my updated code archive. I just trigger a deployment of the code that's going to be uploaded into my sandbox. And then I activate this code version so that I basically have my updated version as the most actual one defined in my sandbox. So once that is done, we should check if it is available, right? If the code change actually took effect. And now I'm opening the sandbox out of my command line tool by just saying, opening it up basically in the business manager. So now I'm redirected into the system, into the backend. I check my reference architecture site for that. I go to the storefront, and then I'm searching for the address I had before. It was a belt address. And if I just go to the product detail page there, it should show up with the updated name. So all what you have seen is basically that we had a code change. We used APIs that were basically incorporated into a command line tool, a community-based command line tool already, and everything was done actually at your fingertips. So no login anymore required into the business manager to configure Okapi, to configure WebDAV, whatever. You can all do it right from your system. And an overall time perspective, as I said before, creation of the sandbox between 5 to 6 minutes, and then the login basically, or not the login, the data load takes about 8 minutes for the SFRA data. If you have more data, then it needs more. So now that is a demo that comes from us. I would like to ask Patrick basically to join me and tell a little bit about himself first, and then how you actually incorporated our new sandboxes into your processes. Basically one of our first pilot customers utilizing that.
Sure. Thanks, Dirk. So like Dirk said, my name is Patrick Krobach. I've been at Under Armour for just about 4 years. Started when we didn't have any Commerce Cloud sites, and now we have 26 countries live on Commerce Cloud. So from the beginning where it was just me, to today, where we have both an in-house engineering team, multiple solution integrators, a complex footprint of countries, multiple realms, multiple languages, currencies, ERP integrations, and at this point, over 40 sandboxes, traditional pod sandboxes. As you can imagine, this kind of complexity, makes the management of sandboxes even more difficult. A few years ago, we kind of took the stance that a developer shouldn't have to keep their own sandbox updated. That causes a lot of problems for the business, takes a lot of time. Whether they're starting a new ticket, new bug, production bug, even worse, trying to recreate something that's happening on production. They can do it in staging, they can do it in development, but they can't do it on their own sandbox. So how do we stop that from happening? We want a developer to be told by their business partner that there is a production issue and be able to recreate that very quickly. And be able to action against it very quickly. So in order to do that, we built a very custom solution. We used the SFCC build suite, as well as the catalog reducer, Jenkins, and Selenium to automate basically logging into Business Manager, creating a site export, taking that export, actioning against it, putting it back into, and then running the import from an automated standpoint into the target sandbox. The problem with that solution is that it was really brittle. Commerce Cloud is always updating Business Manager. So if you're using Selenium and tools like that, when they're changing the interface, then our tool was breaking often. The other problem is that pod sandboxes are extremely slow. So not just the imports but themselves, but re-indexing or all the actions that Dirk took us through from the demo. And the problem with that is that, when we would automate this solution and we tried to bring up that sandbox from scratch, it would take an extremely long time. Where are we at today? Thanks to Derek and team, we have been a part of the beta since the beginning. So all of our full-time staff is using the developer sandboxes on a day-to-day basis. Other than the automation aspects, they're incredibly fast, not just storefronts, but routine activities such as indexing, uploading code, or web dev are much improved, much quicker. Allows for developers to use tooling that they're used to, so they can stay all in the command line like the demo displayed, and not necessarily have to log into Business Manager for different functionality, or go to the storefront to do things that they otherwise would have. The other thing is from a sandbox management standpoint, they can restart and manage their own sandboxes, as well as all the imports that they need to do. The second part, the part that we're working on today, that's currently in progress and is progressing quickly, is that we are using the sandbox automation and the SFC CCI tooling that's provided as part of the sandbox, the on-demand sandboxes, to create both short-lived QA environments, short-lived development environments, so that when we interface with SIs, that we can give them, we can provision a sandbox for that SI that only includes that site that they care about and only the information they care about, and also the ability to have, provision a sandbox that has all of our data on it. That's very useful for both developers, but also from QA perspective. And then, ultimately, long-running sandboxes that are updated automatically, so that when a developer is working, their sandbox is always up to date, always has the latest information, and always most closely mirrors production, so that they can be most effective. So,
thank you, Patrick. So, just to say a word, without pilot customers like under Armour, we wouldn't have been able to get it to the state where we are right now. So that's a very important thing for us, and thank you for that.
Oh, thanks for you guys.
So just as an additional use case, basically compared to what we have heard before, we have other customers who are using that, the environments more in an ephemeral way. So if you just consider that Commerce Cloud developer pipeline, where you have an assemble step and deploy and a validate step, we really consider the sandbox, along with the different APIs that you have seen as part of the deploy step. And if you look into the detail of the deploy step, you see basically all of the different commands that I have put in there before, in the demo as well, to create a sandbox, to upload the code, activate, run the import, and finally actually do some post-import steps. That is all being covered by APIs. And the customer that I'm talking about right now, they have actually utilized that to integrate the new sandboxes in their sanity check pipeline. And what they came up with was really that they saw 100% improvement in the throughput of the sanity check pipeline. That means they were able to run twice as many sanity checks with the same sanity check pipeline that they used before, just by applying the APIs and the sandboxes that we have in place today, also as part of our pilot program. So speaking about pilot is over now. I think it was very successful for us, but we actually want to get more feedback about the whole system. So we are opening up that whole program actually to an open beta, and every customer and partner who is interested can actually approach us. Go to your account executive or partner manager, and we are going to set you up in the system to actually get your feedback and get your hands on the system, and we are really looking forward to get that done. Finally, our general availability timeline has been set to Q2 of next year. So looking forward that we are improving it still in the next couple of months, but final go is actually Q2 2019. Thank you, and handing over to Andrew again.
Yeah, so thank you, Dirk. So, I mean, the sandboxes are a great example of how we're trying to embrace some of these principles and get the tools that you need out there to be able to do your development faster. And ultimately, the question is, where does all this lead and what does the future look like? An overall developer experience has all of these type of things associated with it. And based upon a number of these things that we're creating, you start to see how some of these things start to play into the overall path and where we're going with CI/CD, with the Okapi Explorer, actually, which we didn't talk about much today, but everybody should look at the Okapi Explorer to see how you can use Okapi, and a number of other things that are listed here. We want to make sure that we can continue to drive this overall developer experience to get it to the point where again, the developer experience isn't standing in the middle of you being able to innovate on top of the platform that you want to do out there. So here at Dreamforce, there are a few more sessions that talk a little bit more about some of the APIs and the direction that we're going. This is just the first of many days this week, I'm sure you're all aware. So we still have these sessions that are coming up. There's one later this evening, and then Wednesday and Friday. There are a number of others that are in there as well. And then also we want to remind everybody to join us at the keynote, Commerce Cloud keynote, Thursday afternoon, where there'll be a lot of great content there from our trailblazers at Univar, Lacoste, Madewell, and Elf Cosmetics. We also have today, we still have time for some questions, so that's good. We want to take some questions. We have Under Armour swag to hand out to question people. So thanks to Under Armour and everything, and Patrick, again, thank you.
I'm guessing I can't win.
No, you cannot win. And Salesforce employees in general probably can't win as well. But please, we have a microphone. Feel free to come up, ask us questions about sandboxes or any of the other items that are mentioned here, or anything that's on your mind.
How do you see this applying to other than the Commerce Cloud, for Service Cloud or other things? We're struggling with trying to create an integrated training environment a little bit with some mask data and other things in Service Cloud and doing some stuff like that. How do you see this applying to that? Okay,
actually, that's a good question. So specifically Service Cloud, I'm not exactly sure, but there are a number of things happening with Salesforce DX across a number of different clouds in terms of Marketing Cloud. I've seen things from Marketing Cloud. Service Cloud's probably in there as well. We've been working with Community Cloud on a few things. We're starting to pull together the idea that Salesforce DX can be a place where you can start to use it to build these environments and do things across the clouds. So, I mean, to be completely open on what's coming and kind of roadmap-wise, we've showed the SFCC CI command line tool that's here. That's currently a community-based tool for Commerce Cloud that's using our APIs, but we will be working over the next calendar year through 2019 that will be pulled into Salesforce DX. So Commerce Cloud will just be another topic within the Salesforce DX object chain, and that's where all the other clouds are starting to head as well, so that you could just use DX to create your environments and upload code and handle those things from there. That's a good question. Please come up front and find swag. Eric, do you want to help out, hand out swag?
I really wanted to answer, but the swag is a bonus.
We can think about it the other way too. And the swag's good, yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Don't be shy.
I got one.
All right.
So when you spin up one of these new sandboxes, what about data? Let's say you have, it's kind of a data-centric problem in production. Can you get a subset of data from production to work with this sandbox? Or I guess, how do you point it at what database, whether it's a dev database, a test database, or if you can get access to prod data?
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So the sandboxes that we talked about is actually still a sandbox. So, right, it is not really resembling peak environments like a developer environment or a staging or production environment. So data handling is currently supported via import-export capabilities. It is not really that you can stage data over into the sandbox. That's not yet the case. And we are thinking about this, but it is not yet in the short term available.
Yeah, so the same mechanisms you use to push data in and out.
Right.
Still there. They are, however, we have seen improved performance on those. We're hesitant at the moment to say how much of improved performance because we're still ramping up the betas to see how many people we get on the system and what it looks like. But we have seen, like Patrick mentioned, a lot better performance out of these new non-pod-based sandboxes.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do is, we use the catalog reducer to not have a full set of data, and then also from an inventory, really it's inventory, pricing, and catalog that are the bulk of the data. So we use a reduced set of that on sandboxes to make sure that it's representative of what's on production, but not 100% one-to-one. And also, like Andrew said, I can attest that the imports are much, much improved. So,
is your reducer dynamically created, or are you picking and choosing prices, inventory, and products to build this catalog?
So both. So it can be dynamic. It's dynamic, or we can use a set of styles or SKUs.
Question on the CI. We use semantic versioning with build numbers, so we know exactly what is being built, tested. CI allows you to use code activation. Does it also allow you to use code creation? Or how do we control which code version is being deployed?
Exactly. So there is, at the moment, the handling is really like, it is still a manual process, right? You need to check something out and actually deploy it to a system. What we have in mind in the future is something that it's more integrated into the complete developer flow, that you basically say, okay, I want to check out code version X, Y, Z, and integrated into that checkout is the creation of a sandbox. So that this is basically deployed into a sandbox. That is something that we have in our plans, where we want to go to. But today, this is basically a manual process as it is today. With the improvement that you basically can spin up a sandbox at any time that you want and can just deploy it on that system.
Yeah. I mean, we have our ultimate developer vision is that your source code really is the center of what's happening out there, and that you could, wherever you're holding it in GitHub or whatever, that you could just point it and say, pull this and put it into this environment, create a sandbox and put it there. And that we will probably, we've looked at a number of things of how we might be able to do that. Right now we're consumed with getting the sandboxes to GA, but that will be something that we'll be looking at after that time frame, yeah. Any other questions? One more question.
I'll try to make this quick.
Do you work for Yeti, or
I
you
do
just
work for Yeti.
Okay, good.
So we have a unique problem right now that we actually have a customization branch of Yeti, and we're putting that onto our Yeti.com website. What we're running into is that we need a way of updating pricing in the customer cart and account. And I don't know if any of you guys can point me towards somebody who's a master that knows how to get pricing sent back and updated. Does that kind of make sense? And I don't know if the hooks, I don't know if that could help. We're running into an issue where basically there's very minimum amount of information that we can update in the cart on SFCC.
And you to update it as
So if we make a change in Salesforce, we want it to feed back onto the customer's account.
Okay. I don't know offhand, but that might be a good advertisement to have you been down to go down into the Trailhead zone and talk to, we have product people and CSG people down at the booth in the Trailhead, the Commerce Cloud booth. They may have some options there. If not, please, you can look me up on the meeting invite, send me a note, and we can get you some
I was hoping
answers.
those hooks were going to be a quick, easy answer.
Yeah, they might be able to help, but I'm not sure exactly with that use case if they could. Plus, you'd be creating, there may be a way to do it without having to write that custom code and pieces there.
Thanks.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate everybody attending. Thanks.